Alrighty then, welcome everybody to another episode of Shut Up Trying to Watch Here, a movie podcast. And this week, we're talking about the Power Rangers 2017 movie version. I was thinking about trolling people and saying the Power Rangers movie, the original, but nope, we're going to talk about the newest incarnation of Power Rangers. And with me today, or tonight I should say, it's going to be, starting from my left, or your right, Derek, our social media expert,
Hey, what's up, guys?
and
Hey, what's up?
returning guest from last week is none other than Greg Dietz.
Hi, I just woke up from a nap, so excuse the laziness of my voice.
So yeah, we're here to talk about the Power Rangers movie. But before we do that, let me go over the rules of this podcast. So we will discuss the movie as shown above to follow along. We will talk about the movie in a non-spoiler review for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. We will then move on to the spoiler section where we will discuss spoilers, and then last but not least, we will end our podcast with our final thoughts on the movie as well as a score. But that being said, let's get right to it, guys. All right, so we all seen the Power Rangers movie. Me and Derek actually went out to see it this past weekend, I believe. And we had a lot of fun. We went to the Napa Century Theaters. It was pretty awesome time. A lot of kids were in the audience, so I'm not surprised there. A lot of parents, a lot of kids. And then me and Derek were there, kind of like as the older guys, just sitting there, just like yeah, this is cool. Yeah, so the movie itself. Oh.
All right.
That's right. It's all right. So the movie itself, and Derek and I kind of discussed about this after the movie was over on the way home. I think this movie is a lot of fun for people to definitely go watch if they're a Power Rangers fan. But I think that if you're outside of the fandom, if you're more of a person who likes to watch movies in general, I'd say wait on the Netflix or wait on the DVDs or to watch it, because it was okay to me. It was fine, but it wasn't anything earth shattering. Like oh my god, my phones are going off.
Sorry, that's me retweeting your stuff. I entirely disagree with that sentiment. I think that the movie could work. I think the movie could definitely work outside of fandom. It's definitely designed as such, with the character development of 5 teenagers that we've technically never seen before. Granted, they share names with characters we know. These are entirely new characters, and for somebody who would who would go into the theater not knowing the franchise, I think somebody would leave in that mindset going, "That was a fun movie," or in this case, with an old person, that movie was stupid. I swear that happened. I was sitting in the theater. There was this mom and a little boy in front of me, and the little boy loved it. The little boy was like, "That was dope, Mom. Thanks." They leave, and the kid had to have been like, I don't know, 9, 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an elderly couple sitting next to them who's like 60 plus,
Mm-hmm.
and they get up, and as they're walking in front of me, the old lady just goes, "Well, that was effing stupid."
Yeah.
And I thought, first off, I was laughing my butt off because that was hilarious to me. I do think that there is a sort of like, I think that people that are going to enjoy this movie are people that also enjoyed like Pacific Rim. Like that they have to be into that idea already before going into the film. But I don't think that they have to necessarily be a storied franchise fan of Power Rangers.
Interesting. Derek, what about you? Like we both saw it.
Yeah, we did.
In your more, I mean, like out of all the friends I know, like you are more the person that knows more Power Rangers than I ever know. The Super Sentai series and whatnot. So in your
I've been a fan of the series ever since its first inception back in 1993. So yeah, I am actually very well versed. I'm actually very well versed in this series. It's like as far as Power Rangers goes, and I came out of that actually a very, very satisfied fan. Um, there are a lot of hidden Easter eggs within the movie that you more than likely you probably missed. And there's a very surprising cameo which we will probably do in the spoiler section. I won't spoil it for you guys here, but yeah, as a Power Rangers fan, I was really satisfied with how this panned out. It might be polarizing for some folks that aren't really new to the fandom or only stopped around only stopped after Mighty Morphin season 3. But so I mean, like if you follow the original, I definitely would recommend this. So.
Yeah. Okay. There is definitely, as far as the movie itself, like there's definitely elements where, what's funny to think about too, because I just because Derek, when you and I were at the movie theater, again we're just a lot of kids in the audience, and then very mixed ages. The movie surprisingly is more adult than what it gives off, like especially I'm not to go too deep into the movie because we'll wait till the spoiler section, but just. Like, there's definitely some elements of some characters that when you learn their backstory, are facing like real life issues that you never saw in the original show. Like the original show, like it was just straight up campy, teenagers fighting monsters. And they never delved into their backstories as much in the show. But in the movie they did, and yeah, there was some kind of adult stuff going on there. I was kind of surprised, but it's actually really cool though. At the same time,
I think on that note, that's to make the Power Rangers more human. I say that in the sense that the most of the kids, and again, Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the entire franchise of Power Rangers, all the teenagers that have ever been used as Power Rangers, for the most part, are goody two shoes. I'm thinking maybe
for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, I was like maybe Tommy might have been like a little, or other characters in other other series, but this made them more relatable. This made them more like, oh well, I'm not entirely goody two shoes. I'm not a person that always thinks about the right thing to do. Sometimes I do the wrong thing, and I think they wanted that for the American audience, especially for fans, for people who, again, don't know Power Rangers at all. Because it's that whole adage of like, he's a good kid, he just messes up sometimes, and that's what these characters were. But I think that the reason that they did that was, again, for the sake of the people who aren't fans of the franchise. The stuff that was for us, the stuff that was important to us was, the Zordon, Alpha 5, the quotes that they threw out throughout the entire film. The end of the film was for us.
Yeah.
The rest was not necessarily for us, unless you're like super into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, this is definitely, I like to think of this as the movie that a fan of the franchise would go to and bring his girlfriend who wasn't a fan, and they both leave happy. That's what this movie is to me.
So yeah, this was more. This first film was more of a quote unquote origin story. So it's like, and as far as these things go, we all saw the first Iron Man. So they focus more on the origin of the characters, as opposed to action.
And origin stories will always do. Origin stories will always do a lot better in the theater than the not origin stories.
Yeah. So it was basically meant to flesh out all the characters and to get to these guys better. It's like, okay, it's like these are our heroes. They have issues. It's like they have issues. They're not perfect, but but in time you might or might not grow to love them. It's like, so here you go. That's all. That's basically what this is. It's like the characters themselves are definitely much different than what I expected them to be. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, in the end, it's like I did like who they were. It's like ultimately, I think they do live up to the legacy.
So the one thing I will say about the movie because when you think about the Power Rangers show, like again, like they didn't really delve back to the backstory of these characters, of these teenagers, or even Zordon or Alpha, or some of these other characters in the show. With the movie, like, because that was never explained in the show, they got so much creative freedom to kind of use and explain, like, this is how Zordon became this way in not in the particular part of the movie, or this is how said person is doing what she's doing.
From what I read on that, Anthony, Saban actually was really into this American told story of characters that didn't have super strong backgrounds in the original show. Not that I get that you're saying that you liked that, but I thought that was very fascinating to me. Was that I want to say his first name's Haim Saban.
Haim.
Haim. God, I was so close. Yeah, he was super into it. He was very he wasn't against it at all.
Yeah. So because of that creative freedom to just kind of do whatever they need to fill in the explanations like that, I think that was more of a I'm trying to find the word betterment, or it was more of a benefit for the movie and for I would say the company as well who made it to do that. Then
completely agree. I think for the sake of how do I say, for 90s Saturday morning or after school shows that are really designed to sell toys, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's very rare to get an origin story, and that's so for Power Rangers it kind of does, but not entirely. And then you have Transformers that kind of does. It has 2 episodes that are origin, and but not entirely origin. It still goes right into that the Cybertronian Wars. But G.I. Joe, you don't at all. It's just there's a team of soldiers that fights Cobra. And that goes for so many cartoons. So there is no history of Zordon in the show, as far as I know. Unless they did it in later seasons, I don't know.
All they basically told us was basically he was just a floating head stuck in a time warp. That's it.
Yeah, that was it. I think Rita stuck him in that time warp. And then for Rita, that she was in a dumpster and she was put there 10,000 years ago, and now she's free to conquer the earth. That's all we know.
Yeah.
And for a kid, that's all you need to know. Exactly. But for an adult who has $10 to $15 in their pocket and wants to go see a film on a Friday night, Saturday night, you need more than that. You need more substance. You need more meat to the bones. I will say this about the story, though, and you guys might agree with this. The story that was told with these kids and them becoming superheroes was generic superhero fare.
Pretty much.
Yes. With some stuff
thinking about it, yeah, it was.
With some stuff they did not explain because you could tell this movie was on a budget. Oh man. But yeah, there's definitely.
It also explains why half the scenes you see in the trailer were not in the movie itself.
Yeah.
What scenes? I haven't seen this. I believe you because that happens all the time. But I'm curious what scenes.
Well, let's see. There's a small little 2-second clip of I think one of the Rangers having a jacket on and training on top of a literal train car, and then there's another scene of a male Ranger and a female Ranger sharing a kiss, and neither scene made it into the movie.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean there are countless situations where that's the thing where the company that makes the trailer or cuts the trailer gets a bunch of stock footage, and they have to come up with a trailer with all that footage that in the sometimes the film's not even done filming. There was one a while back that did that, but it was it was so little. They had to cut a trailer, and the film had a third of the footage filmed. And when the final movie came out, or when they had to put out that trailer right before the movie came out, you watch those 2 trailers and they're completely different. But I digress. Yeah, that seems like a few things hit the cutting room floor. Maybe the kiss was too like there is a point in the film. There are various points in the film where it feels like the stuff with them trying to become superheroes and how realistic things get is way too juxtaposed against each other. For example, I'll just say this: the campfire scene.
Yeah.
Seems way too ham-fisted. And it's so close to the climax of the film that I was just like, this seems like out of place.
Yeah.
So
the pacing of that was a little weird. But yeah, I definitely agree. I think that campfire thing was just a little.
It's that old thing, Anthony, that I've talked to you about when it comes to storytelling, and that's the whole hitting the brakes on a roller coaster halfway through. It doesn't make any sense. It's like all of a sudden hitting another like climb halfway through your ride. And it's like that ruins the momentum.
And at that point, yeah, there was momentum going into the film, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's get to know each other. The film's about to end. It was like, wait, what?
Yeah, that's yeah.
It just leaves you feeling like that.
Yeah.
I get why it had to be there, because at that point in the film they hadn't really explained two characters' backstories. But there was a part of me that kind of liked that, where those two characters hadn't been the center focus at all. And I was like, oh man, they kind of feel like there's a mystery there that they could maybe, go into in the second film or the third film, and they were like, nah, we gotta throw in this scene that explains it. It's like, okay, I guess.
Yeah. What I will say also is that since we're on the topic of the actors, I think the actors, for the most part, were fine. I think the Kimberly, Jason, and Billy, I think the chemistry between those three specifically were really good. I think they were great. The Black and Yellow Ranger, I think, could use more work. I think the Black Ranger was just becoming a little too not cliche, but one note, because every other time like it cuts to him and like it's either, hey, he's talking about his mom, or B, I'm crazy guy and I'm gonna do this thing because I'm crazy, So I
especially when he hijacks a certain. Well, let's save that for the spoiler section.
That's actually that you can actually talk about that freely, because IGN not only put up that entire clip, but so did a couple other pages. But yeah, that's that scene is out there for you to watch, so we're not spoiling anything. But Zach, the supposed Black Ranger, takes his Zord for a test drive, crashes
for a joyride, more specifically.
There you go. Crashes to the side of a mountain and into their training area, almost killing all of the other Rangers, including Alpha 5. And at the end of the clip, Alpha 5 stands up and says, aye, aye, aye. That's the end of that clip. That's free to watch on the internet. That's not technically a spoiler if you want to go watch that. I mean, also, it's Power Rangers. You kind of know that they're doing that with the trailers.
Yeah.
But it's okay to have a character that's one note. I think that when you...
Can you repeat that again? You kind of cut out.
Oh. Really? Is my internet crashing? Please
No,
don't.
you're fine. You're fine.
Oh. Still, my webcam still says it's being wonky. Anywho, it's okay to have a few characters that are one note. I think a perfect example of a film that has a bunch of characters with a character that's one note, Drac. He is very one note. So is Zach. But so is Groot, and we all love that movie. We all love Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
no one complains that Drac and Groot are one note. So I don't think it's a problem that Trini and Zach are one note. I really, really don't. I think that's okay.
We'll probably get to see more of them because they're planning to make this a film series, and we'll probably see more of their characters in like future films.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure we will. But just from the actor's standpoint, my favorites were, the red, and as far as like the chemistry wise with the Rangers, the Blue Ranger, the Red Ranger, and Pink Ranger were all great in my opinion.
Well, then that was supposed to be that was the point. You wanted to care about those three more than the other two.
Yeah.
You could argue that that's bad in terms of how inclusive the film tried to be.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, what are you going to do? You know, like it's. We did get some character development from them. We did get some backstory. We did get some idea of what their motivation is. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But I certainly wouldn't say that them being one note's a bad thing.
When used right, like to me, like again, Zach was one note, and I get your argument because you know we have Groot, we have Drac, that an example in Guardians of the Galaxy that everybody loves, and there were one notes, but when a character is when you're trying to introduce a character that is part of a team and you're getting these backstories of somebody of like 2 or 3 of them, and this one character who says a line over and over again. Wow, it was funny the first time, hearing it again and doing exactly what his character is portraying is just not. Eventually, it gets old, and it's just.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I also don't agree that happened in this film.
I think it did. I mean,
I don't feel like he said it often enough for it to be a problem. And it was spaced out enough to where it was kind of like he said it maybe 3 times in the film. And I think 3 is enough. He stopped saying it shortly after like an integral part to the film, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too outward with it. Like he said it like 3 times. Like the 3 times he said it was before any kind of like proper Power Ranger stuff. I think the argument you're making, Anthony, on that note is if we have characters that are one note, we should definitely go into, or we should definitely have. Oh no, sorry. Let me try that again. You don't want characters that have one note. You'd rather have characters that are a little bit more fleshed out, correct?
Mm-hmm. A little more meat to the bone, pretty much.
Okay. You know why that the campfire scene happened then? Was for that exact reason. Because they were afraid that by having characters that were one note, which the writers definitely saw that, they had to add that scene in to make them not one note. Which some may argue too little too late. I argue that scene could be totally taken out of the film and not changed at all. The scene, I mean, for crying out loud, dude, like right before big things happen, and like there's scenes where you see. Boy, I want to get into spoiler territory if I keep talking.
I know.
I'll get to my point. I'll get to my point during the spoiler section. Mm-hmm. Point on hold. Let's go.
Yeah. I think we're all kind of egging just getting to the spoiler section. So, well, again, if you're a fan of the series, I think you should definitely go watch it. It's probably more fun for you to watch. I think if you're an outsider, in my opinion, it's an okay movie. But I would, if you're an outsider that just want to watch a generic superhero movie, I would say wait for the Netflix or DVD, in my opinion. To
me, it depends on the situation at hand. It's Power Rangers definitely serves its purpose in the theater. It is a popcorn flick through and through, and I think if you are into superhero films, if you're still enjoying those, even though there's quite possibly an oversaturation of the market, this is definitely a good film to go see.
Okay, Derek, your quick thoughts, real quick, before we go into the spoiler section.
So yeah, it won't hit any high notes if you're a casual fan, but if you're a Power Rangers fan like I am, yeah, I would definitely go watch it.
All right, awesome.
That's it.
All right, guys, we're moving to the spoiler section of the podcast. You have been warned.
Boy, here we go.
You've been warned. We've been holding back, and now we can unlock the limiter.
Do you mind if I finish my point since we're in the spoiler section?
Yeah, go
right ahead, bro.
Go for it.
Okay. So, there are two scenes in the film that serve their purpose on a visual and otherwise scale that show Trini and Zach's kind of like why they act the way they do, why Trini's closed off, and why Zach is just kind of like boo 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 boo. And that's the fact that he takes care of his mom, and his mom is sick. We see that twice in the film before the Power Rangers scene. With Trini, we see her interacting with her family, and her family can't understand her. Now, if there was a line added that was like, Trini, I know you hate it that we move, and I know that you hate it that you're the new girl all the time, but you have to communicate to us. We're really your only constant. And she just, whatever, and leaves the table. Good Lord, that would have solved every problem with the campfire scene.
Yep, agreed.
And it wouldn't have changed the pacing of the film. It might have cut the film down a little bit, because I think some people might deem it a little long. I know the little boy in front of me was just like looking behind and looking around and kind of like bored during the campfire scene. So, but that was my point, was that the campfire scene existed because they were afraid that those characters weren't fleshed out enough for a lot of people. And I do feel that having changed certain scenes in the past, or just adding a couple lines, would have solved that problem without having to go into all this crap. Because most people go to that movie and they're like, teenagers get superpowers and giant robots, go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or giant mechs, whatever you want to put that. So that's, I don't know. That's kind of where I was going with that, but I couldn't say that without spoiling it.
Right.
Yep.
Just kind of thinking about, as far as like when I was watching the film and just thinking about it like afterwards, I feel like the film was kind of a weird place for me, because I feel like it was trying to be serious, but at the same time, like, there were some campy moments, and I feel like it was kind of a weird combination of the two, of them trying to, figure out, like, is this movie going to be a serious teenagers becoming superheroes, and or like there were some campy cheesy stuff also thrown into the movie. It felt kind of weird.
What they were trying to also retain the original feel in some form or another. That's the reason why some areas were a bit campier than others.
Yeah, and when it was campy,
it was especially.
Or go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Especially Rita's performance.
Yeah, I'm okay with it, but yeah.
How did you guys feel about the various lines from the original just inserted throughout the film?
That was cool. I mean, for for me and Derek, it was great. But that's only because
I loved it. I thought it was like "Make My Monster Grow" was one of my favorite moments in the film. Like, I was just like, yeah, that's rad.
It's a TV trope name. Come on now.
Yeah.
Well, and the other aspect, I don't know why I'm stuttering. That's all, folks. The other aspect is, not only is that a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to us, but it's also fun to kind of like sit back and watch a film from our perspective and enjoy the film for what it is, but also go, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Like, we know how silly this shit is. It's fucking Power Rangers, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
It's like the new.
Also,
for example.
Go
ahead.
Oh, and also the as you mentioned before, the aforementioned I.
Yeah.
You're like, right. Aha! I see what you did there.
There's also a couple other lines. God, I don't remember the other lines that were uttered throughout the film that were like directly from it, but that's what it was. It's like watching the new Voltron show on Netflix. I don't think anyone going into that cartoon is at all thinking like, man, I remember watching Voltron as a kid and how serious and important of a franchise anime it was. No one's doing that. They're like, it's about five guys and a girl driving giant lion mechs that form into a giant robot.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what people want to see. They want to see that kaiju shit. And I think that's what's important about this film, is that, in my personal opinion, it took too long to get to that kaiju shit. and I wanted that. I wanted that way early on. I felt like for us, it was meandering to a point, and I think that point was like it was starting to get a little too. Come on, let's go around the campfire scene.
Yeah.
There are moments in the film where Jason is like he's having an argument with Zordon, and I'm just like, it's Bryan Cranston on the fucking wall, and you're having an argument with him. Like
you are arguing with Walter White. What is wrong with you?
This is ridiculous, and I think that's kind of where the film lost the old couple in front of me. Because honestly, I think that they were lost before the Power Rangers became Power Rangers. But like, I had a little bit of a chuckle when I was like, man, this scene is way too heavy for a fucking giant floating head on the wall. It's just too. It's like, with fucking with very strongly alien-esque Alpha 5 off in the corner, just like looking back and forth at them, like, and you're just like, you want to go behind the camera for just a minute?
Yeah, there was definitely it was weird seeing that, and it's just like, yeah, I think I agree. It was, to me, it didn't even feel that long, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's because like it just, to me, like I was just analyzing the entire time. I've heard people say that it was a little long in the tooth when it comes to certain scenes or to the movie. Speaking of Alpha, I actually am a fan of this Alpha. I actually enjoyed the voice acting for this character. I love this.
By the way, he's voiced by Bill Hader. He's who played one of the cops in Superbad.
Yeah.
Man, I could not remember his goddamn name. I was like, yeah, Bill Hader is a fantastic character actor. Like when he was on SNL, he was easily could change his voice and become somebody else for a sketch. Mm-hmm. And so it's not terribly surprising that he can do that now with voice acting.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to see him do more of that with voice acting.
Yeah.
He was fantastic though.
I really enjoyed his performance as Alpha. It was pretty funny, the snarkiness that Alpha came out, because obviously, you know, not to draw comparisons, but in the original show, Alpha was more of a, you know, basically if you think like a nerd, like in a I'm saying in a robot suit, but just basically like a nerd, just kind of trying to figure things out in a way, like kind of like Billy in a way, like back then, but just more
the Steve Urkel bot, basically.
Yeah, basically. But I like the direction they took with this Alpha. You know, I think that the voice acting was pretty great, and it was pretty fun to see. The thing I will say about the movie too is like what I did like is like I like the sequence of events where they were training the Power Rangers to become superheroes. Like they actually had them. They were training in the pit. You know, they were fighting these like holograms, and they were actually trying to figure things out. Like I like that the progression of like, okay, so they need to get from A to B. And in between there, they need to show like exactly how they got there, or how they're getting there. And I like the fact that, you know, Jason's putting on like a mark every day, just like, you know, how many days until, you know, we morph or whatnot. I like that. That was cool. I like that sequence of events. That's pretty awesome. But there was definitely some other spots in the movie where I think might have been changed. I think the one thing I heard people actually are a fan of this beginning sequence of the film. People actually really like the where Jason is stealing or is just driving away in his car after putting a cow in in one of the locker rooms in a high school. And when Jason is escaping through the car from the police, like you have this kind of like every 5 seconds the camera will move around and it will go like view the back of the car and then view and then turn around and go view, I believe it was Jason, or it might be just the front view of the car. I was not a fan of that. I actually had to look away for a second there because that kind of made me a little nauseous.
Yeah, I don't understand the direction of that whole angle and why they chose to do that. It makes no sense. By the way, just so you know, he was driving a red Ford Ranger.
Oh. Wow, okay.
I see what you did there.
Awesome. Gotcha. Yeah, I wasn't really a fan of I really wasn't a fan of that video direction. I was like, yeah, you gotta look away for a second. But yeah.
And then there was the van crash.
Yeah.
That that actually led me to an interesting theory. I was like, wait, what if this whole film is actually a dream sequence after the van crash? Because like, there's no way anybody would believe
it's like everyone but Jason died, and it's just his coma dream now.
Yeah.
Much.
It was funny too when Derek mentioned that. It's like, you know what? That actually could be it could be a thing. I doubt it, but that would be kind of hilarious. The fact that everybody died except for Jason, and he's in his coma, and he's just dreaming of all this.
As funny as that would be, I hope sincerely that that's not the case, because boy, oh boy, will people be mad.
Oh, they'd be pissed.
You're like, man, really?
Yeah.
I mean,
especially when in the original series, there's teleportation.
Yeah.
Like you could just. You're like, who knows? Maybe those powers teleported him out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than likely. I mean, the thing is when you talk to people about plots that have that kind of a twist, people always bring up like Mario 2 or Saint Elsewhere, Dallas, like, and you go back and you look at the reaction of those season finales and or final of the game, and people are just like, what's the point of me playing it in the first place? What's the point of me watching the whole thing? It's like, ooh.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would definitely happen.
That was definitely me after Mario 2. I was like, okay, wait, I own this game for like how many years, and this was the end result for this.
Yeah.
I do want to see in the sequel more into like, because we see a lot of the fact that they were very strong and very powerful pre-suits.
Yes.
And then when they get the suits, they like one of them, it might have been Trini, might have been Billy, I don't remember, goes, "This is way better with the suits." What's up?
It was Billy.
Okay. I sincerely hope that by the time the second one rolls around, we have this ability to, or not ability, but we see we see more of them fighting putties or giant monster. My curiosity lies in this, and something I kind of said as I stood up from my seat was the two guys next to me were very happy. They were very excited. They were very like they had just big grins on their face, and I go, it was right after the scene which we can talk about in a minute, the post-credit scene. Mm-hmm. And I looked over and I was like, do you think we're getting Lord Zed for the sequel? And they went, God, I hope so. So my curiosity is this: do you think we will get Lord Zed for the sequel, or do you think we're going to have a similar plot to the franchise, to the other series, where if you're not a fan, and Derek can probably correct me on a few parts, but layman's terms, Tommy is not necessarily a good guy for a hot minute because he's being controlled by Rita.
Yeah, he's under Rita's spell.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
So here's my thing: the sequel is either going to be one of two things. Lord Zed shows up, and we just get the Green Ranger, or Rita falls back to Earth, unthaws, or something to that effect, and has already cast a spell on the green coin, or she doesn't have it, or she does have it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question, because like,
we're definitely getting Tommy for the sequel.
Yes. Because that was a question that me and Derek talked about after the movie was over. Is like, are they going to delve into Lord Zed, or possibly the other Ranger errors, possibly into the next sequel? Because like in the movie, they were talking about the Zeo crystals, and the Zeo crystals wasn't really introduced into Power Rangers original TV series until season 4, I believe.
Yeah, not until Alien Rangers. They didn't mention anything about it beforehand.
Mm-hmm. So it could be
like not until
and it could be a look forward to possibly what they're thinking about for the next movie. And it's because like it was definitely, because here's the thing, like even though I think the movie's okay, I'm still very curious to see what they do with the sequel. I'm more than likely, I believe they're making a sequel. I mean, I hope so. But yeah, I am very, very curious myself. And seeing Lord Zed would be pretty cool. And possibly other things as well in the Power Rangers series. But speaking of Rita, I am fine with it. Like the way she looks, the way she acted, I'm okay with it. She was going a little ham sometimes, but that was when it was getting a little.
So was the original.
Yeah, that's
I was
true.
just say, I think what's the actress's name?
Elizabeth Banks.
Thank you. I was thinking Leslie Mann. I was like, that's not right. I'm not gonna say that out loud. Yeah, Elizabeth Banks was having fun with the role, 100%.
Definitely.
She was just like, I get to be silly and over the top, and like, not as over the top as her character in Hunger Games, but like still over the top, but a bad guy. Like she was clearly having fun.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm okay with I'm fine with her performance, and the way she looks. I think that I was gonna say I'm just looking at the IMDb like actors as well. I think Zordon was fine. I think that it was interesting to see the fact that they gave him a backstory in the beginning of the movie, and explained the fact that Rita was a Green Ranger prior. It was because again, like there was a lot of creative freedom to use since there wasn't much to delve into in the original shows. So that was fine. Like I think that there's definitely some things in this movie where they had a lot of creative freedom and they used it to their advantage. To explain things.
Having him be the original Red Ranger made a lot of sense, honestly. Because like they didn't really. So with the original Zordon, we never really got much of a story with him. So it's like it actually makes sense that he'd be the very first one.
Yeah.
I will say for me, something that I felt like was a cheap cop out to get. So throughout the film, in case you haven't watched it and you're listening to the spoiler section, throughout the film the Rangers are having troubles morphing, which is just basically putting their armor on, because their minds aren't essentially like working together as a team. And right before the final climax, they finally get their suits on. But the way that they do it is by Billy dying and then them going, we fucked up as a team. We need to get better at this. And Zordon going, well, here's a Deus Ex Machina moment so he can come back.
Yeah.
They totally bring him back, and then they're a team now because they almost lost a team member. They had grown as a unit. To me, that plot device was very ham-fisted. It felt like the writers just kind of like threw it in as hard as they could to like, well, we got to make them a team, and training wasn't clearly enough.
Yeah.
We gotta have this big moment. It was kind of like the Avengers moment where everything was falling apart, and they had to come together as a team because things got a little too hot. I was like, they could have done that better. They could have written that better. And I hope there was in the original script a better way to do that.
Yeah.
But I felt that was a bit ridiculous.
Like, well, you also have to factor in, like, the original reason as to why they wanted as to why Zordon wanted these kids to morph into the Rangers. It was so he could tap into the morphin grid and come back, so he can come back into a physical body as the original as the Red Ranger.
Yeah.
So he can essentially just take over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And that was another thing. Was like, it was very unclear to me. Like, I mean, at the end of the film, it changed. But it was very unclear to me whether Zordon was like, I'm absolutely trying to trick you, or if he was just like, you need to become the Rangers.
Yeah. That was confusing. Not thinking about it.
So yeah, it's basically like, which is it, bro? It's like, do you want to come back, or are you gonna let these kids take over?
Yeah.
Well, I think they had that scene with Billy to like make him less of that, and they were like, oh, he had a moment where he was a good guy, and now he's just really a good guy because he didn't let a Power Ranger die. You're like, okay, all this seems weird and out of place. Yeah. This scene is like the campfire scene. What the hell?
Yeah. what we'll say about
But hey, we got like 5 armored superheroes now, so I guess it kind of pays off. Okay.
Maybe sort of.
Okay.
I don't know.
yeah, I will say about the Billy Depp scene is that, I mean, it's a movie, so you got to suspend your disbelief or your just kind of reality from the movie.
Of course.
Like,
If I could be honest,
yeah,
I'm looking at this whole thing and going, why did y'all just perform CPR?
that was I was thinking about too. Like,
I mean,
seriously,
like he was
they
basically down there for like what? Only a few minutes?
yes.
I
Come on,
honestly
dude. He isn't
thought
perfect.
about like, oh, they don't know CPR because they're bad kids from the other side of the track.
But I like the fact that like literally they touch his they touch his face and they're just like, wake up, Billy, he's dead. They don't even bother checking his pulse. They don't even bother doing CPR or anything. Like I get maybe they're teenagers, they don't know any of to do it, but I don't know.
I mean, for crying out loud, like, don't even need CPR at that point. Just one of them punches chest, and you're like,
I know,
like,
right? God, seriously. But there were moments in that film that kind of was like makes you scratch your head, like the part
also,
where
Billy, you can't hold your breath for that long.
I know that
I mean-
yeah, that's true. You're literally down there for a couple of seconds. So, but the other part I wanted to point out was like, well, 2 parts actually. Like toward the end of the movie, when they were
Big loophole, or big plot hole. I just thought of. Sorry, do you want me to tell you what the plot hole that I just thought of was?
what is it?
Good to know that these coins
Good.
can save them from a train crash, but not drowning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I wonder.
That's good.
Oh boy, that's not good. I don't know why I thought of that now.
That's a good point. Just to kind of add on to that, like, toward the end of the movie when they were forming the Megazord, because like here's the only thing I knew about the Zords and the Power Rangers, the fact that when they got in, they were told like once you get in, like you're bound to this Zord. Like when you move, like they will know how you move, or some along those lines. And
It's
it
basically an extension of themselves.
yeah, and it's basically like because like there wasn't really much of an explanation. Like, well, they never operated these Zords before, so how did he know to function them? So and that was probably like the explanation. Vaguely.
Well, they never really explained it in like the very first episode of Mighty Morphin either. During the entire Zord combination sequence, it's like Trini and Billy are like, oh, I know how to. It's like I know how to drive this thing for years, even though I've been only in it for. Even though this is like literally the first time I've been in it.
Yeah.
I mean, like it may be a throwback to that. I don't know.
I don't think it's as much of a throwback as it is a just an old movie trope to like. You've already suspended your disbelief up to this point. Why not a little bit further? And maybe that was part of the training montage too, was like training them how to drive their Zords. But I don't know. There was a brief shot of like a thing from behind the seat, like grabbing their spine and then pulling them back.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Gundam. It kind of reminded me of Gundam a little bit. Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Yeah. It. I thought for like a second that shot was there because they wanted to show like that's their seatbelt. But now that I'm thinking about it, now that you guys have pointed out like they don't explain anything, I think that was their explanation.
Yeah.
Was that it's just tied into their suit, which is a part of them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much.
The other thing too I want to point out too, since we're on the topic of things that were not fully explained, when all of them are pushed to the edge it's over the edge by Godard, and they come back up formed as the Megazord. I was waiting for 2 things. I was waiting for Zordon or for Alpha to just like tell them inside their heads, hey, there's this other mode you could do with these Zords called the Megazord or some other, name for it, that you can form into a big giant robot. That never came, and then when they got pushed over and came back as the Megazord, like, there was no explanation. It's like, oh, I guess everybody knew how to form up to this giant robot when they did it before, so, yeah.
Well, I mean,
So
Rita
for
was
me-
surprised by it.
Yeah. For me, it seemed like, mean, like like as it was mentioned earlier, like there's that little connection they have in their necks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like who knows? Maybe in the back of their minds, it's like all 5 of them thought, hey, maybe we should try this as a last resort. Hey, Megazord activated. So that sort of thing. Like subconsciously, they didn't know how to do it. So they didn't know how to do it up until that very last second when they're about to fall off.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, let's try this for a quick second.
A lot of this film is, oh God, we're about to either A, die, or B, lose somebody. We need a quick fix. And it's a lot of last moments in this film. A lot of, like, which is bizarre to me, to a point. Like, it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing by any measure, because I've seen too many films that I love that do this kind of idea and trope. And it definitely works for superhero film. But I do believe that, like, that whole Megazord thing was definitely there as a way to be like, they're finally a full-fledged team. Where we already had that scene when they got their suits.
Yeah.
The whole point of them getting their suits was to become a cohesive, well-oiled machine. And they did it. To add an extra scene like that seemed less of a superhero, or is it less of a scene where a babyface is getting headlocked by the heel, and the audience starts chanting like they're trying to get a fairy to come back to life, and he's like slowly getting back up and does like a rally back. Where that's what that entire scene was. That entire scene where Goldar pushes them back, they come up with Megazord, was that scene that you see in wrestling. And I don't say it's a bad thing, but it definitely wasn't necessary. It definitely wasn't something that... I feel like a better use of that could have been Zordon just telling them through their headsets or through their suits, hey, you guys can make a giant robot if you want to fight the other one. It's cool, though. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know. It just something, Like, I was waiting for that, like, toward the end of the scene, and that never came. I was like, oh, okay, so they just kind of figured it out.
Like, yeah, it just made it look like, Saban kind of pulled this out of his ass.
Again, it's a lot of Deus Ex Machina moments. Yeah. And if you aren't a fan of Power Rangers and you see that definitely comes across as like, why didn't they do this earlier? Or it definitely comes across as another ham-fisted scene that just kind of like pulls things in at the weirdest moment. I guess for me, on just a personal scale, again, I'm not looking for the next Citizen Kane when I went to see Power Rangers in the theater. I knew I was getting stuff like this. I knew I was getting out of context scenes, Deus Ex Machina moments. I was definitely getting those, and so like this didn't actually bother me. I know it sounds like that way, and I just want to clear the air. It didn't bother me. I wasn't upset that they conveniently figured out how to do half the stuff, that they conveniently had a way to bring Billy back. That kind of stuff doesn't bother me, especially when I know that Bill Hader is voicing a weird-looking robot alien. That doesn't bother me. When like there's a scene where Jason is talking to Zordon, and it's like super serious, and they're arguing, and you're kind of like, this is bizarre. The whole film is bizarre. The whole the whole kit and caboodle was weird.
Yeah.
And so I think as I'm sitting here pointing out plot holes and weird errors and issues with pacing and timing, overall, as I watched the film, none of that shit bothered me. Not a lick of it bothered me. And I don't think it will bother most people. I don't think that, like, yes, Robert, or is it Robert Roper? What the hell's his name? The guy that was with
Richard Roper?
Richard Roper, thank you. Richard Roper will probably leave the theater going, well, it wasn't a Thomas Anderson film, so it. Like, yeah, he'll do that, but I think the majority audience who goes and sees this will just be like, man, that was cool. I really enjoyed that. That was fun, which is kind of how I left the theater thinking.
So I
and I
mean,
don't-
like, yeah, Saban. I think Saban expecting, at the very least, half the audience to be like to have grown up with the series. I mean, like, especially if you watch, like, the first 3 seasons and you grew up with the original. I mean, like, he was expecting half the audience to at least be that. Hence the reason why he pulled. Hence the reason why he pulled half the stuff. Hence the reason why the film is basically, half Deus Ex Machina, half okay, let's try this out. That sort of thing.
Right. You had to suspend your disbelief a lot in this film, and I was doing that, especially towards the end, where like I had to roll with the punches. I was like, all right, sure, this, they didn't really explain this part, but all right, we'll just continue on with the movie and see how this goes.
I know, it's like the movie is just saying, just go with it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, realistically, if we're being honest here, every superhero movie does that.
Pretty much
every single one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the highest acclaimed superhero films uses almost the same pacing and like a team coming together story, and that's the Avengers. I used it earlier, or even Guardians of the Galaxy, for Christ's sake. And both of those films use just like convenient plot devices, and nobody cared.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's over the top. It's silly. It's meant to just be a popcorn fun flick.
Yeah.
And it did that.
Yeah.
Did that in spades.
Yeah. Except one movie is very, very highly grossed and reviewed very well, and the other movie is, well, it just came out, and so far it's been mixed, kind of been lukewarm reception so far. So
For Power Rangers?
Yeah. It's been
You
lukewarm.
talking
only
about
did get
with
number 2 at the
Charisma?
box office. So,
I was like, are you talking about critical
still.
review or like money? Because people seem to enjoy it. The people watching it seem to really dig it, but the critics hate it. So I'm not sure what you're getting at, Anthony.
I mean, a mix between like the audience likes it, but the critics don't.
Well, yeah, that's why I said earlier. Like Richard Roper is going to be like, it's not Citizen Kane. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of course, critics are going to hate this movie. It's not like if it is a popcorn flick. The critics have notoriously hated every single Fast and the Furious, and the only one that they're justifiably hating on is 3, because the rest are pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're fun, and this movie's fun. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
That's a different topic.
But I will say, though, just like pointing out the other things I did like about the movie, is obviously, me and Derek got a good laugh at the very end of the movie where, the cameo of the original Green Ranger and Pink Ranger, Kimberly and Tommy, were taking pictures of the Power Rangers as they were standing in the city with their Zord. That was a cool moment. I loved that. That was great. I did enjoy the scene where Rita was investigating the Krispy Kreme donut location, and she's in there eating a donut as Goldar is.
That product placement, gotta pay for something.
I know.
Right?
It was.
Hey, where are the Zeo crystals? Oh, just go to Krispy Kreme. They're just conveniently stashed in the basement.
The movie was very much going like, hey kids, after the film, go to Toys R Us and Krispy Kreme. Your parents will be okay with it.
I really.
What's a shirt?
Yeah.
It's a good kid combination.
I really geeked out when they were in their Zords, and it was literally a shot for shot of the original Power Rangers intro, where it's like a side view, and they're racing down to go fight Rita and Goldar, and the Power Rangers theme kicks in. I was like, yes, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like that was great.
Fun fact.
That was actually pretty cool. Yeah.
Fun fact about that theme. That's actually the modified theme they used for the '90s film.
Yep.
Oh no way!
The original
seriously?
1995 movie.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yep.
god! Wow, so cool. Oh man.
Honestly, I was expecting the Zords instrumental that they used for the original series. That would have been so much better. But hey, that's me.
Yeah, I think that they tried to do the original. I think it would be a little weird.
I feel like there was a part in the writers' room where they were like, we could do pterodactyl, we could definitely do triceratop and T-Rex, and we can do a tiger, saber-tooth tiger, sure, why not? But is everyone going to be cool with a woolly mammoth? Nah, We'll do a stag beetle. All right, that works. Or whatever that was supposed to be, because I'm not 100% sure.
Like that, I have no idea whether or not that's supposed to be a giant beetle or an actual mastodon or whatever. But it definitely did not look like some giant freaking ancient elephant.
Yeah.
If it's a giant beetle, I sincerely hope that it's a small nod to Beetleborgs.
Oh my god.
Because man, that'd be rad.
The Thunder Rangers.
Yeah. The one thing I was saying, and I think I told Derek afterwards, like I'm not quite a fan of the Megazord when it was finally formed, because I was looking at it, it looked like Optimus Prime from Transformers, the Michael Bay Transformers movie.
I wasn't a fan of it either when I saw the toy. So when I saw the original toy for it, I was like, really?
Hey, let's. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you because Anthony makes a point that I also like to make another point to, that the film kind of went, and both like made a tip of the hat and a big middle finger to, and that was when I don't remember which character it was, steps on the yellow Camaro.
Oh, goes, that was Bumblebee. Jason. He's like, sorry, Bumblebee.
Oh my god. I didn't realize that until you told me that. That's great. Oh man.
Yeah, he just he was just in his Tyrannosaurus Zord, accidentally kicks a yellow Camaro. He's like, sorry, Bumblebee. Whoops.
That's great. That's awesome.
So I guess I don't know. That was kind of a response to the Optimus Prime-ish look of the Megazord.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I think if there was another mech involved in a fight, it may ran into that problem that the original Transformers had. The Michael Bay one, where like you had obviously the Decepticons and Autobots fighting each other, but it was kind of hard to tell the difference because they're both gray and mechanized robots. So like in this film, it's fine because obviously you got a giant literal gold liquid monster versus a mech. So.
Okay, so I'm on the internet looking up what the Black Ranger Zord was definitely supposed to be, and it's absolutely supposed to be a mastodon. And its guns were supposed to represent its tusks.
Okay.
Or the front gun was the trunk, and the side guns were the tusks because they come out at an angle. Boy, it didn't look like that. Oh, it did not look like that.
Yeah. You gotta suspend your disbelief a lot in this film. So, not surprised.
And on top of that, the original Megazord had a tank mode, so I guess it's a shout out to that. Yeah. Those had guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and it has 4 legs or 8 legs total, which threw me off, which is why I thought it was a beetle. And then it has like the front, which don't look like a trunk or tusks. But then again, Alpha did say like they're designed after some of the mightiest creatures that were around at that time.
Yep.
So based off of, I guess, works.
Yeah. This film was very weird. It was definitely a very strange film. And there's definitely some things that were left unexplained. But at the same time, I guess that's okay. I don't know. It's whoever you ask. What I will say though, and it'll probably explain why she'll be in the moon, because in the show she was in the moon when she was summoning her monsters. The fact that they
got bitch slapped up there.
Yeah, like
I literally said, "Are they gonna bitch slap her to the moon?" Is what I said out loud to myself.
They literally threw. It was literally like a not to date myself. I haven't watched the TV series, but I know what it's referencing to. But like not to rev, the honeymooners, bang right to the moon. So.
Oh my god.
I know, right? So yeah, like more likely, like she got hit. She's got hit towards space, and if I remember recall, like it was like the moon was like behind her. So obviously she's going to be on the moon, and she's going to do her monster thing like she did in the show. In the next.
I don't think she'll throw her staff to the earth, but yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it. We saw how campy this movie gets. I wouldn't doubt that she'll do it. No, they do it.
I don't know if it's that camp.
Whether or not she does it herself, it has some sort of automated thing that does it for her. We may never know.
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine that she throws something at the earth, but not like something that she can't get back. Because that was the thing about the original show that was so weird. Is like your staff is just on Earth now. How you get that back? Do you have telekinesis with it?
Yeah, just as a boomerang. Just throw it down and it comes back to you.
And this movie was set in more of a realistic setting, regardless how campy it was. So,
yeah, it was.
like Goldar was quite literally just a monster made of gold.
Yeah.
As I believe that's how Goldar was made in the show, but Goldar was sentient, whereas this thing was less than sentient.
Goldar was a giant baboon in gold armor that apparently was on Saturn's moon, Titan, according to the story.
Okay, well there you go.
Lore. What was I gonna say? I just had last train of thought. But with that aside, I think there's definitely some good points to the film. I think there's definitely some stuff we pointed out, like plot hole wise, or just like things that we'd love to see maybe fix in the next film. Because obviously, again, like this, you could definitely see in some of the scenes in this film, it definitely was on a budget. Like I was actually more of a fan.
I'm curious what the budget was.
Yeah, I was actually more of a fan of them leaving the helmet or the mask on, but like when they finally got their suits, like during the battle, like they had their faces exposed, like for most of the time. So like you can definitely tell there was some budget constraints, or if that was a director like.
So I'll kind of break that down for a reason. The reasons why they had open face masks like that while they were in the Zords. Mm-hmm. Something that not only did Power Rangers do, and they tried to change for the 90s film, but American audiences, American filmmaking is very, very, very strongly steeped in the idea of moving your arms around to show emotion. No, I'm sorry. Wow, I was doing two things at once. My brain just stopped and then like jumped ahead. American audiences use faces to show like acting and emotion and a bunch of stuff like that.
Right.
Whereas in Japan, they don't give two shits about that, as far as I've noticed. And so that's why a lot of the times Power Rangers do the arm movements, right, when they're talking, mm-hmm. to kind of show emotion. That would have been dumb in this film. So, to change that, to make that less weird looking, open face masks are important. And they actually tried to do open face masks in the 90s film, but it looked real dumb. I'll throw you a picture, Anthony. It looks real stupid.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Also, as I mentioned earlier before we started up, I mean, like the whole open face mask thing, that's actually a shout out to the 2003 Power Rangers show, Power Rangers Ninja Storm. Like in that series, 5 of those Rangers actually did have helmets that opened up at the mask, so showing their faces.
Cool.
Yeah, Anthony, you don't know what you're talking about now.
Speaking of the suits, like I'm okay with how the suits look. Just whenever I saw them, it just reminds me like they kind of look like a car. So, I mean, it was okay, but like I'm kind of wondering what your guys' thoughts on the suits for the movie.
I was fine with them. They looked futuristic, or not futuristic, but alien-esque. And the whole idea of the war that the kids got thrust into was alien-esque.
Yeah, that's true.
I was fine with it. I mean, like it was a nice little mishmash of like, you know, it's like the classic look and you know what it's like and how people would perceive it today. So I was fine with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think at this point, after we said everything, I think we're ready to go into our final thoughts of Power Rangers movie 2017 version. Give me a second here as I go on to the next scene. So actually, hang on, I need to reset the score here too. Actually,
as you're doing that, I placed the picture in the Skype call, just so you know.
Yep, I will take a look at that in a second here. So since we're gonna be on the first person here, sorry, I'm just kind of making things work here on my end. I think, again, as I said in the non-spoiler section, I think if you're a fan of Power Rangers, if you love the series, if you've seen any part of Power Rangers and you want to go watch this movie, I suggest you do so. There's enough things in this movie that harken back to the original series, as well as interesting direction they took with some of the actors. with some of the direction of the movie. There are some weird pacing when it comes to this movie, and some weird just scene direction, just in terms of, like, as we said, the campfire. There was definitely a part where, like, there was some shakiness in some of the scenes where, like, for me, like, when I saw it, I was like, please keep the camera still. It's only because I do video work, so it's whatever. But I think if you're a fan, you can definitely go see and watch it. But again, if you are somebody outsider looking in, and if you're somebody who wants to watch a movie as generic superhero movie that this kind of is, I definitely suggest. It was okay for me, but I suggest wait till the Netflix, wait till the DVD to come out to watch it. I don't think it's worth it unless you're a big fan, or if you're really bi-curious, then definitely check it out. But that's my thoughts, and my score I'm going to give it is going to be a 6 out of 10. All right, so our next person we're going to have up is Greg. Your final thoughts.
I feel that this film is definitely it hits all the tropes of superhero films. It really does drive home the idea of teenagers with attitude without saying straight up teenagers with attitude. And I feel that there are a few pacing issues, but nothing that is so jarring and distracting that it doesn't take away from how much fun this film is. I left the theater very pleased and very happy with what I had watched. I didn't feel like throughout the film there were scenes that were so bizarre or so out of place that it didn't work. I do feel that there are moments that are so corny and so cheesy and so over the top that they may distract some viewers from just how much fun they could be having if they just didn't pay attention to those scenes. And I am mainly talking about those two old people that were in front of me. That was effing stupid. Well, old lady, this movie clearly wasn't for you. Now, was it? I don't know why you're here. Go elsewhere. But also on the same note, like, they definitely wanted to make the year's first big popcorn flick. Some may argue that was John Wick 2, but I'm going with this one. This film, like I said, it hit the same. It hit the same tropes that, like, Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy did, but on a lesser scale. Like, it didn't hit them as well. I definitely laughed a lot less in this film than I have in other superhero films, and I think that this film could have used for a lot more me laughing at the actual joke instead of me laughing at the absurdity of it, which happened a lot. So I think overall, due to my enjoyment that I had of it at the time, but noticing the blemishes afterwards, I'm going to have to give this a solid 7.5 out of 10. And the 7.5 is, I know that sucks on the decimal point for you, Anthony, because you don't have that set up quite as well. But the reason I do that is because it's better than a 7 by far, but it's not quite an 8. I wanted to give it an 8, but I kept thinking about scenes that were just so weird and off-putting that I like that campfire scene could have just gone. Like, it completely wrecked the momentum, and it really dropped it down. But the reason it was like a solid 8 out of 10 prior was just because of my enjoyment. But yeah, there's just a few scenes that I wish could go. A few scenes maybe a little more expansion. But yeah, 7 out of 10 or 7.5 out of 10 I think works for me. It's respectable. It's fun to see in the theater.
All right. So last but not least, Derek, you are our last person to give this review. So your thoughts on the movie?
Okay, well, as a fan of the series ever since its inception in 1993, and as a Super Sentai fan since 2004, I would definitely recommend giving this a watch. So for Power Rangers fans like myself, there are definitely a lot of references and a lot of throwback moments that'll make you go, I see what you guys did there. But but if you're a casual moviegoer going in, I would suggest you go in with an open mind. There is a lot of character. There is definitely a lot of character development. You're getting to know five. You're getting to know five well-established characters. New actors. So these are going to be completely different from you're not going to get gymnast Kimberly or martial artist Jason, that sort of thing. But these are like fun. It's like but I think these five new Power Rangers definitely do end up holding up the legacy a little bit more. As far as everything else goes, just basically going with an open mind, and just have fun. I mean, like, it is as Greg said, this is a popcorn flick. Don't expect it. It's like don't expect it to be Shakespeare or anything like that.
I'm not gonna walk away going,
score for this.
What does life mean now?
Yeah. I mean, but as far as my score, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Should be enough for the average moviegoer, and there's definitely more than enough for Power Rangers fans.
Yeah, I think we're gonna all kind of forget about this film after the year's over or towards the end of the year, and then when the sequel starts to come around, we'll be like, yeah, we're in again. I think that's what's gonna happen.
Pretty much. So that does it. Those are our scores and reviews, and you can take them for its worth, or you can ditch our entire discussion and just go watch it on your own accord. But anyways, this has been the movie review for Power Rangers. So before we go, Greg, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ChubRockGeek. Just on any of those, search ChubRockGeek. You can find me on Snapchat at ChubRockSnap. I stream on twitch.tv/halfemptyetank every Saturday. I have a variety stream. I play a bunch of different games. I'm trying to get a specific game for this Saturday that will be awesome for April Fool's Day, but I'm like, am I going to get it in time? I don't know. But you can also see my reviews on my video game reviews on the website. I was gonna do a written review of this of Power Rangers, but Anthony's like, nah, we're doing the podcast. I was like, all right, cool. But I just did a review on the newest Inti Creates game, which came out for the Switch and 3DS, which is Blaster Master Zero. I kept calling it Master Blaster Zero. I know that sounds backwards, but loved that game very, very much. I thought it was very enjoyable, and I gave it pretty high remarks. Where else can they find me on the internet? I think that's about it.
Cool. Awesome. Derek, where can they find you on the internet?
Well, let's see. I am on Twitter and on Instagram as simply known as the Hypebot. Let's see. I mean, like, although I have been on Instagram a little bit less as of late, so although I do tend to live tweet a lot, especially during FTC events. So yeah, just follow me. So just give me a follow on either one.
All right, awesome. And you can follow me as well on Twitter at DefectiveNaruto. You can follow over to WeDo on our website at missionstarpodcast.com. This video will go up on our YouTube channel. I forgot to upload the last one on Logan, but that also will be up on our YouTube channel as well. So, and it's probably expected in a playlist. I'll set it up on the YouTube page. So definitely check it out when it comes out. Or you can watch it here on our Facebook page, which I believe the videos are actually recorded and saved on the Facebook automatically. So you can also watch it here on our Facebook page at facebook.com/missionstarpodcast. But that's going to do it for us. The next movie for me I'm going to go watch, definitely, and it's coming out this week, it's going to be Ghost in the Shell. I am very, very interested to see how they do with this movie, and I've been hearing some good things about it. So, but yeah, that's my next movie I'm going to do, and we'll find out. We'll have a podcast about that one way or another. Thank you very much for watching, and let me get this scene set up. Give me a second here, and we'll see you guys next time for another episode of Shut Up, Trying to Watch Here.